Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you days 16, 17, 18, and 19 of the Art Joy of Sharing Facebook group challenge called ATC A Day 2019. That's a hashtag. You can search it. That's just making an artist trading card each day. Artist trading cards are 3.5 by 2.5 inches, like a baseball card or a Pokemon card. So this first one, I'm actually doing the Pick a Stick Challenge, ATC Challenge. So there are some prompts. Prompt 1 was attach. And so I attached a piece of tinfoil to a watercolor card using some permanent glue stick from Elmer's. And then the second prompt was text. And I had this postcard from Stencil Girl, and it had a really cool quote on it. So I tore it out from the postcard. I peeled it from the back, and actually the wild card is peeled, so I hit that one too to make it a little bit thinner because it is on a card. And I'm going to attach that to the card. But before I do that, I decided I better throw in the color challenge, which is rose gold. To me, rose gold is a metallic because the only things that I've seen as rose gold have been like the phone and different electronic things and stuff like that that have that color, and it's just kind of a pink metallic. I don't have anything like that in my studio that is already that color, so I mixed a little bit of metallic gold, metallic pink, and a little bit of copper to make a color, and then I painted that over the tinfoil to make the whole piece a rose gold color. That will shine through at the end, but it's not real prominent. Then I went ahead and attached the text with my glue stick, torn from that postcard. And it says, "We communicate through art with symbols that transcend the boundaries of time and culture." And that is true. And I am going to put a symbol on here, which is the symbol of a cross. But before I do that, I'm going to do the third prompt, which is pool. And I ran the card through my die cutting machine with one of those um, texture envelope things that you can make texture out of cardstock. And I made sure that the way that I put it was so that on the front of the card there would be some indentations. And then I can take some alcohol ink, which of course sticks to non-porous surfaces, which this is, and it can pull up into those little crevices or indentations or demarcations, whichever you want to deboss spots, because embossing would be to make raised, so debossing is to make concave. So then I'm taking some different colors of alcohol inks. There's a butterscotch, chili pepper, and currant, and putting them in, letting them pool up in there, and then I have some 91% alcohol in a spritz bottle, and I spritzed it to just let everything kind of meld and sink into those areas of indentation. So then to finish off my card, I decided to make the edges darker. I decided to make it kind of grungy, so I used some potting soil ink. I'd already put a little bit of the black ink on there. Then I have these paper clay mold press pieces that were sent to me by Leslie McGrath in a package recently. And there was one that is very ornate looking cross shape. Now, when we think about a cross, we think about that being a Christian symbol, but actually that symbol has been around a lot longer than that. So I thought that it worked really well for to go with the same. So I put some alcohol inks on it to color it, and then I have some Inca Gold, which is kind of a wax a metallic wax that you put on with your fingers. Put that on the top to highlight all that filigree. And then I'm going to glue this to the top of the card using some Aliens Tacky Glue. And that kind of finishes the card. I guess I did a couple other things because the video didn't finish yet, did it? So there must be other things. Gluing it on, and then I'm going to put a little shadow around it. It is colored in the same way as the background, so it just kind of blended into the background and didn't stand out. So I wanted to put a black shadow underneath it or behind it. So I also trimmed off the edges of the cross because it was going over the edge, which was fine too. Then I had to color them. So then I just put a little pool of Posca pen ink onto my paper, picked it up with my water brush and just blended around some black here and there. It makes it look even more grungy and kind of cool. And then I added some black ink around the edge, a little bit more black ink around the edges, and that was done with the card for the Pick a Stick Challenge for the month of June. Also, day 16 of Artist Trading Card a Day. And I think it turned out pretty cool. It's got all the steps that were needed. So for day 17, I did most of this one on the Art Joy of Sharing live stream show where we were doing alcohol inks. And there's this technique that I saw Barb Owen doing, and there's also a book about it. It's batik using wax paper. Batik is when you apply wax to fabric and then you dye it. And it's kind of a resist that has a real crackly look because the wax cracks and then the dye gets down in between the cracks. It's really cool. And something that I remember from my childhood, my mom had an artist friend and she did a lot of batik. And I think it might be like where the start of my like of paper piecing and collage came from, because it's kind of like that. So what you do is you take some wax paper, you crinkle it up really good, you put just the tiniest bit of black India ink on it, rub it in so that it gets into the cracks of the wax paper and makes it look like this crackled thing. And then you can trace or draw. Barb Owen was tracing designs onto it. And then you can paint color on it using alcohol ink because alcohol ink attaches itself to non-porous surfaces. So that's what I did. I drew an image. I painted it using my alcohol ink palette, which is just dripped alcohol ink into a empty palette, and then I could pick it up with a paintbrush that has been dipped in 91% alcohol to paint with. So that's a way that you can paint with alcohol inks. So then I trimmed it down because it had some white areas at the top and bottom that where the wax paper didn't quite reach, and I just wanted it to be smaller and fit onto a frame, which is a piece of black cardstock. And I had also added a few highlights with the white Posca pen and darkened up some areas with my black Posca pen. Glued it down, put a word on it, and then added some shimmer with a Spectrum Noir glitter pen. So that was day 17. For day 18, I also did the first part of this. I made the background on the Art Joy of Sharing live stream show when we were doing alcohol inks. This is the pearl ink that Ranger came out with recently. It's a mica, pearly, cool ink, and I dripped it onto some Yupo paper and then let it blend with some of the blending solution from Ranger. I just have three colors, a pink, a yellow, and a blue. So then when that was all dry and a different day, I have this new tool that I got. I saw it on Instagram and I thought, if that looks really fun. They just call it a design tool. But then I went and looked for it on Amazon and I found it for a lot cheaper than what was advertised on the little Instagram advertisement. The one thing I don't like about it is it didn't come with any instructions, but it basically has two metal circular kind of socket type magnets that are very strong magnets, and then it has two um, pieces that attach to the magnet and can spin around. So it's basically kind of like a fancy protractor. And then the one tool has a lot of symbols and things that you can use. The other one's more like a measuring tool, but it has holes drilled in it. So then you can draw very easily draw multiple size circles, which is what I was doing, was trying to draw a mandala. When I try to draw a mandala, I try to draw the circles. I am terrible at it. They become kind of misshapen ovals and things. And so having something like this is very helpful. So it, I probably didn't use it to its full potential. I didn't use all the symbols and things that were on that other piece because I wasn't really sure how they worked. But it definitely was easy to draw the the concentric circles with it. And I'm just using a Posca pen and acrylic paint pen. Then I did use like an oval thing. Then I just went rogue. I was going to try to use it for more things, and then I just went rogue and used hand drawing after that. But at least all the circles are perfectly drawn and equidistant from each other. So that's the basis of the mandala anyway, which was good. So then I just start filling things in and drawing more things and bits and bobs and whatever, just trying to make it look like what I think a mandala looks like. Um, Interesting thing, this this pearly alcohol ink is all dried onto that Yupo now, and I was able to clean up mistakes using a Q-tip and some alcohol, and it didn't really affect that pearly ink underneath, which I kind of thought it would because alcohol ink, usually you can reactivate it with alcohol even a long time later. But these pearly ones are just, they're a different formulation, the pearl inks. There's something different about them that, I don't know. Anyway, I did end up getting out a different type of pen, a smaller nibbed pen, which is a Faber-Castell Artist Pit pen, which is India ink. So I've got some um, acrylic ink and India ink on there, but that's all permanent on there. Uh, Pretty permanent. I obviously you can see I could clean it up with some alcohol and a Q-tip though. So then I got out my colored Posca pens to add some color. I have a lot of different sets of Posca pens, and I just got out all of them. I sorted them. I cut that part out because they were all like crazy in the drawer. I sorted them back into their sets, and then um, went to work just adding mostly like little dots or dashes of color inside some of the designs that I had drawn on there. And that really jazzed it up quite a bit. I was much happier with it after that. Um, when I first started, I thought the black over the pearly ink would be pretty and I wouldn't have to do anything else. But then just adding some little dots of color made a huge difference. So this one was fun. And it was fun to try out that new drawing design tool thingy that I just had to have. And, you know, you see something and you see, of course, on Instagram, there's a video, right? So they're just doing all this really cool stuff with it. And you're like, oh, I want to do that. But then when it came, the box had the pieces in it with no instructions. So you don't really know what to do with it. So I do have to play with it some more and figure out more things that it can do, or else try to find that video that I saw on Instagram. That would be smart. So I put some ink on the edges and I'm just pretty much done with this one. Oh yeah, because it started to look less shimmery, I did get out the glitter pen from Spectrum Noir, just clear glitter, and put a little bit of that back on so that some of that mica shimmer would come back, make it more shiny and shimmery and sparkly and whatever, because you know, glitter. I mean, who doesn't love glitter? So that was day 18, I think. Yeah. So, day 19. The first thing I did on the Art Joy of Sharing live stream show with the alcohol ink was to do a little bit of marbling. And this is just water. And the water, and you put the alcohol, you drop the alcohol ink into it, and it just, I don't know, it sticks to the paper. It's just a marbling technique. It floats in there and kind of sticks. That piece, which is the one I ended up using for the card, I didn't think it had enough on it, so I just dropped a few more colors on it. And this is just a fun process. Different colors do different things in the water, but I do have my gloves on, smart for once. Those two didn't come out very bright, so I ended up adding some more ink, trying to make it darker. Um, yeah, it was fun though, but that was on the live stream. So here's one of the cards that has the marbling. That's the one that I actually added some different drops of color to because I thought it was too light. It was a second dipping after the first, the first one had a lot of color and then the second one didn't come out with as much. So I decided to drop some other colors onto it. Well, actually, they're the same colors, but just drops. You know what I'm saying? Drops, drip drops. So I had this stamped image on tissue paper stamped with some permanent black ink that I got in a package. And this is a Gina B. Aaron's design stamp. I'll put a link to it in below, but it has two hands that are grasping each other. It could be a bro hug, it could be someone helping lift someone else up. I'm not sure, but I thought it was a cool image and I decided it would be a perfect size for an ATC. So I glued it on there using the napkin glue from Decopage, and that stuff works really good for thin napkins or tissue paper. It helps it not buckle too much. Then I colored in the image with some white gesso because the background was so bright, especially those drops of the magenta ink, just super bright, and it was showing through. So I put some white gesso on, and then I have my Neocolor 2 water-soluble crayons, and I am coloring the skin tones in. One of them I started with tan and then worked a little bit darker, and then the other one I started with more of like a peachy pink and kept that one lighter so that they are both definitely skin tones, but they look like two different people. And I'm using a little bit of white gesso along with my water brush to blend these. It helps it blend more smooth and also kind of makes the water soluble crayon more permanent by being blended with a little bit of acrylic into it. So, of course, this is a layering process, just like anytime you do anything coloring is a layering process usually. Um, most colors are translucent, so you end up layering. And even if they're not, you still end up layering. So I did that. Then, of course, because the white gesso I was blending with plus the crayon itself is a little bit opaque, I needed to darken back up the lines. So I brought back in my black fine tip Posca pen and darkened up and kind of redrew the hands so that you could really see what you were looking at. They had just all gotten too light. Added a little bit more color, um, just until I was happy with it. Then I decided that what I needed was a stencil. This is one of the ATC mix-up stencils from Stencil Girl. And it has this one that has dots. And I had dots in the background, but there wasn't enough dots. It just looked weird. So I decided to put the stencil down over the card and then draw some of the circles with different crayons, with different Neocolor 2 crayons, and then blend them with my water brush, which added some more dots to the background and made the background more interesting. But it got a little bit bright and overwhelming, so I decided to take some white gesso, same um, stencil, and just go through and kind of add a little bit of a lighter color over the top of those bright colors to make it more subdued so that the hands were the thing that showed up, right? But of course, then I needed more color back into it. I needed some shadows, so I drew some of the Neo Color 2 right onto the paper and picked that up with my water brush to add a little bit more oomph to something. And then I added some highlights, just little kind of scratchy dot highlights and splatters with my white Posca pen. Added some black around the edges with a black ink pad, and that one was pretty much done as well. I think I did add in a little bit more uh, color, and of course the words "hold on." I hope you've enjoyed this video, and you will give it a thumbs up or leave me a comment or question below, or both. Of course, you can share this on Pinterest. You can subscribe if you haven't already, turn on your notification bells. And if this is the last video that you're watching today, please click over to another one that has 1 million subscribers before you click off of YouTube, because my video apparently gets punished if it makes you leave YouTube, which is kind of funny because my idea is that I'm trying to inspire you to go do art, but then you leave and I get punished. So that's it for me. Bye bye.